ever spend like an hour just trying to change a simple setting on your phone and you just end up feeling like you need an engineering degree to figure it out?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all been there. But today's deep dive is about cutting through that kind of complexity in a way you might not expect
Okay.
through the surprisingly powerful world of the KISS principle.
Yeah.
Have you heard of this?
Absolutely, yeah. What's fascinating about KISS is that it goes way beyond
Okay.
just making things, user-friendly
Right.
for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
Although I think that's a big part of it.
Sure.
It's really a fundamental principle that can be applied to, gosh, almost anything we design.
Yeah.
From software to systems to, gosh, even how we communicate ideas with each other.
Interesting. So we're talking about KISS, but for those unfamiliar, let's decode the acronym.
Please.
It stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid.
Yeah.
It's a bit blunt.
It is, a little bit.
But there's a reason it's stuck around.
There is. And that reason goes back to the 1960s.
Okay.
Specifically, the world of aerospace engineering.
Oh.
So imagine the stakes when you're building something like a rocket.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even a tiny error can have huge consequences.
For sure. For sure. So simplicity equals safety in that scenario.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. But how does stupid fit into all of this?
Right.
It seems a tad harsh, no?
Yeah, I mean, it's not about insulting anyone's intelligence.
Right.
Think of it more as kind of a deliberate counterpoint to overthinking and overcomplicating.
Okay.
The idea was that if a system is so straightforward that even someone, let's say, under extreme pressure can grasp it instantly, almost intuitively, the chances of something going wrong are drastically reduced.
So it's about designing systems so clear that they're almost foolproof?
Yes.
Even in high-stress situations?
Exactly.
Can see how that applies to rockets?
Yeah.
But how does this translate to, everyday software and systems?
Well, think about it this way. How many times have you been frustrated by a website that's just impossible to navigate?
Every day.
Or an app that crashes constantly?
Right.
Often, that's the opposite of KISS in action.
Okay, so I'm starting to see the connection here.
Yeah.
But is KISS just about making things easy, or is there more to it?
It's definitely about elegance and ease of use.
Okay.
But it runs much deeper than that. A great example is the difference between, let's say, a well-organized toolbox versus a drawer just jammed full of tools.
Right.
Both technically work.
Sure, but one is going to lead to a lot more frustration.
Exactly.
And probably a few bandages, too.
Precisely. And in software that translates to code that's not only functional, right? It works, but it's also what we call clean.
Okay.
Readable and easy to understand and maintain.
Got it.
And that's where this idea of KISS being about, better code, not just less code, really comes into play.
Okay, so how does KISS actually manifest in the world of coding? Because coding itself seems pretty complex.
It is, yeah. It is. But that's exactly where this KISS principle becomes so important. It's not about limiting creativity or forcing everyone to code in the exact same way. It's really more about finding that sweet spot, where code is both effective but also elegantly simple.
Okay.
Regardless of, what specific programming language or approach you're taking.
So are there programming languages that naturally lend themselves to the KISS principle?
Oh, absolutely.
Like their design philosophy just screams, keep it simple.
Yeah. Python is a great example.
Okay.
It's practically famous for its readability and straightforwardness.
Okay.
In fact, Python even has something called the Zen of Python.
Okay.
Which is kind of a set of, I guess you'd call them like guiding aphorisms almost.
Okay.
For Python programmers that beautifully encapsulate this KISS principle.
Zen of Python. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't just mention that and then not give us an example. What are some of these aphorisms?
Oh, there are so many good ones. But
one
of my favorites is beautiful is better than ugly.
Okay.
Another gem is explicit is better than implicit.
Okay.
And it's all about this idea of writing code that's not only functional, but is also, almost aesthetically pleasing and easy to understand.
Interesting. I love that. So it's like they're saying clarity and simplicity are just as important as functionality.
Absolutely.
And wouldn't that just make like collaboration so much smoother?
Exactly.
If everyone's on the same page.
And that's a huge, huge benefit of this KISS compliant code. Is that when code is easy to read and understand, teams can collaborate much more effectively. And that leads to, faster development cycles, fewer errors,
Makes sense.
all that good stuff.
So, okay, Python's like the poster child for Kiss.
Yeah, it's a great
But
example.
let's flip the script for a second.
Right.
Are there languages that are known for being, shall we say, less Kiss-friendly?
There are definitely languages that can be more challenging
Okay.
to write in a KISS compliant way.
Okay.
C++, for example, is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Very widely used.
Right.
But its flexibility and complexity can sometimes lead to code that's very difficult to decipher and maintain, even for seasoned developers.
So it's like having a toolbox with every tool imaginable. But it's so packed that finding like the right wrench is going to take you an hour.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that you can't write clean KISS-compliant code in C++.
Right.
It often requires,
Sure.
more discipline
Okay.
and conscious effort on the programmer's part
Right.
to really avoid that unnecessary complexity.
So it's more about the programmer's choices in those cases.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Like the language itself might not hold your hand,
Right.
but you can still strive for that simplicity.
Exactly.
Ah.
It's a mindset, way of approaching problem solving
Got it.
that transcends, any specific programming language.
So even outside the world of coding, these KISS principles could apply.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell me more about that. So we've established that KISS principles have a place outside of just programming languages.
Right.
What are some real-world ways that we can apply this, even if we're not coding whizzes?
Sure. Well, think about a time you had to explain something, maybe a little bit complex to a friend,
Right.
maybe how something works or directions to get somewhere.
Uh-huh.
Did you bog them down with every tiny little detail, or did you try to keep it, clear and concise?
I would like to think I go for clarity.
Sure.
Otherwise, I'd be the friend no one asks for directions.
Exactly.
Right.
And whether it's giving directions, writing a report, or even, planning a project, these principles of KISS still hold true.
Okay.
Breaking down a complex task into smaller, more manageable steps,
Right.
that's always a great way to maintain clarity and avoid those unnecessary complications.
Kind of like how a good chef breaks down a recipe into manageable steps.
Exactly.
Makes the whole process a lot less intimidating.
Absolutely. And another key aspect is this idea of what we call refactoring,
Okay.
which might sound kind of fancy, but it's really just about
Right.
revisiting your work with kind of a critical eye
Okay.
and looking for places where you can simplify.
So it's like editing a written piece.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You write the first draft and then you kind of refine it for clarity and conciseness.
Precisely. So let's say you've written a piece of code and it works,
Right.
but it's a little clunky, it's a little hard to read. Refactoring is about going back, cleaning it up, maybe finding a more elegant solution, removing some redundant lines, that kind of thing.
So less is more, but in a way that kind of elevates that final product.
Yeah, you got it. And that's the beauty of KISS, right? Is that it kind of pushes us toward that elegance,
Yeah.
not just in code, but really in any field.
This has been eye-opening. So as we wrap up our deep dive into this world of KISS,
Yeah.
what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to kind of walk away with?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that simplicity isn't about dumbing things down.
Right.
It's really about striving for that elegance and that clarity in everything you do.
Okay.
So, the next time you're facing some kind of complex task,
Yeah.
just take a moment, take a breath and ask yourself, like, how can I make this simpler? How can I approach this in a way that is, elegant and easy to understand?
Love that.
You might be amazed at how much more effective you become when you embrace this power of KISS.
Yeah. Sometimes the most brilliant solutions are the simplest ones.
Often are.
And on that note, here's a final thought for our listeners to ponder. Leonardo da Vinci once said, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." How can you apply that to your own work or passions? What can you strip away to reveal its true essence? Until next time, keep it simple and stay curious.